Welcome to the Chris Cuomo Project. I'm Chris Cuomo, of course, the NewsNation Town Hall. We saw things in the town hall that revealed how Harris can win and how Trump can win. And I wanted to process it with you together. Why so many were talking about it, why they were angry, what it means for both of these campaigns in these precious final days. Greg Ott, my producer, watched, came up with his own questions, his own things for me to process. So what do you say? Let's get after it. The big takeaway from the town hall is that we haven't seen a race like this in at least 20 years, at least since the Kerry race in 2004. Interestingly, John Kerry, Senator of Massachusetts, Secretary of State later on in the Obama administration, would be one of only two people to win independent voters and lose the presidential election. And why? Well, Kerry's election was a national security election against George W. Bush after 9/11. Now, some of you who didn't live it would say, well, okay, well, 9/11, I mean, everybody was all rah-rah. Of course, Bush won. By that time, we knew we were in the wrong country and had gone there for the wrong reasons. There was no yellow cake. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They hadn't just been carted away. And yet, Bush won. And it was a very interesting read on a very, very tight election, just as tight as this one. Now, this one may be tighter. And of course, it involves a different movement. Okay. The movement at that time in the country was fear, okay, of terror, of terrorism. We are in another grievance-based election that is about fear of manufactured boogeymen. Kamala Harris isn't just running against Donald Trump. She's running against a movement. It's really tough for her. And it's always tough to beat a movement. And I think it cancels out the advantage of the incumbency. I have said, and I still believe, this election is Donald Trump's to lose. Why do I put it that way instead of saying that Trump's going to win? Well, one, I'm not a particular fan of Mr. Trump. And I don't know that the former president is qualified to lead this country. I think he has disqualified himself by his behavior and the way he carries himself. But that's not my choice to make. It's your choice to make, right? As society, I get a vote also. And I believe in transparency with you guys, so I tell you where my head is. I think the movement behind him of grievance, of economic dissatisfaction, of cultural disruption is enough to beat Harris, really to beat any Democrat, except for it being led by Trump. If Nikki Haley were there, I think she would be cleaning Harris's clock. I don't even know that they would have switched out by, because I think they would have been getting beat so bad. But we are where we are. And this town hall echoed all of that. Why? Because JD Vance is obviously playing to a movement. And he is now trying to be delicate because they can lose this election. It's theirs to lose, but it can be lost by recklessness. And you can't double Trump. You can't do migrants are eating the dogs and eating the cats, childless cat ladies. That's why Vance backed away from those things. That's why he qualified them. That's why he was nice Vance, like he was at the debate. Why? Because the crazy of Trump is enough to blow it. And you don't want to magnify the crazy, even if the MAGA people wanted that out of you when they got you picked by Trump, who picked you because of your fealty, which is why you couldn't stop talking about how brilliant he is when he gave you a silly question about how brilliant he is. What else did I learn? We are so divided by fear-based toxic politics driven by parties. And I believe that the Democrats are making a mistake going all in on the but. Okay, grocery prices are not where you want them to be. Yeah, but Trump's a psycho asshole, fascist, potential Hitler, which is ironically what Vance once referred to him as before he needed him to win a primary in Ohio and become senator. The Middle East wasn't happening. Ukraine wasn't happening. Yeah, but Trump is a crazy fascist. And that's why they're now pushing back on that. So the Democrats, the Republicans are pushing back, and people are pushing back on Trump as Hitler. The truth is enough. The guy doesn't have to be a potential fascist or Hitler to be reckless, divisive, and really pose dangers to the cohesion of society. But that's what Democrats have chosen to do. And I think they're playing right into Trump's hands. The town hall showed us that also. How? The reaction to it. Me doing the town hall was seen as some kind of act of treason. We're at a point now where you cannot be open to the other side. It is as if Trump were Hitler. And Hitler doesn't deserve a fair hearing. No shit. No bigot does. Yeah, but Trump's a bigot. That's not what he says. And in my experience, bigots tell you, oh, don't be naive, Chris. No, I'm telling you, I'm not being naive. Bigots tell you that they're bigots because they're deriving power from the prejudice. So the Cuomo has changed. Cuomo has not changed. The times have changed. Our needs have changed. Me getting into a fight and winning with JD Vance, which is very doable, does not move the needle towards reasonableness and disagreement with decency, and us getting as addicted to fixing as we are to blaming for what's broken. That's what has changed. I have never stopped being a critic of Mr. Trump. I'm one of his most outspoken critics. But what we see is, and another thing that came out of the town hall, is that all of the energy is towards just tearing down what you oppose and who you oppose. I am being accused of being racist by some unserious people, because I said Kamala Harris went from being someone you people don't like and never talked about to being Black female Jesus. All right, where am I coming from on that? Okay, here's where I'm coming from on it. One, you people isn't Black people. I would never do that. I am an ally of the Black cause in America. Okay, just as I am an ally of the Jewish cause in America. All right, I believe there is systemic inequality. I believe it is wrong to ignore it. I believe it is wrong not to address it. I think how we speak about people and each other matters. So the idea that I was saying you people about Blacks is not true. And by the way, Blacks aren't the people who motivated Kamala Harris's candidacy. Party officials are, who believe that they couldn't pass over a Black female and hew to their diversity by identity mandate. So my point was, when Biden said he was going to run again, which no one really thought he should, why didn't they say, no, you got Harris? Because they didn't have confidence in Harris. And when it was Biden's on the down, how come people weren't talking about Harris? Because Harris wasn't popular with them. That's why. But now that she has to be their pick in their estimation, and they completely, didn't allow any kind of process within the party for that, which I think hurt Harris. Now they can't say anything bad about her. And if you say anything critical of her, you're some kind of traitor and you're empowering Hitler. And that's what I'm getting hit with. But that's not true. Kamala Harris is not a godsend. Of course, Trump isn't a godsend. But Kamala Harris isn't a godsend. She is not beyond criticism. What are you talking about? That is not how you win, okay? By trying to punish or censor or degrade anyone who questions what you're about. Democrats can win this election. It is not as easy as it is for Trump, in my opinion. I know Alan Lichtman, who's way better at this than I am, whom I introduced to a lot of you guys, says I'm wrong. I think he has his keys 8-5 for Harris of the 13 keys, and you need 7 going against you to lose. So he believes Harris is going to win, and he believes the incumbency helps. I don't in this particular election. But again, I'm open to being wrong. But I don't believe that I'm wrong, not about the outcome of the election. And frankly, that doesn't matter as much to me as the rest of you value it. Why? Because I don't think Kamala Harris is a radical lefty commie who is going to try to erase gender and force my daughter to consider changing her genitals. And I don't believe Donald Trump is a despot in waiting who has a copy of Mein Kampf under his pillow and wants to get rid of the Constitution and create Trumpland. I don't believe either of these boogeymen that the parties are pushing on you. And I am equally cynical, but in a different way, which is I don't think who's the president matters all that much. Even if you have both houses of Congress and the White House, I just don't know how much you get done in the current atmosphere of opposition. And I don't know that the Republicans are going to have all three. So I don't know that there's the need for that kind of requisite check and balance that we have, where as a country, we seem to prefer one party not having all three things going, or let's just say two, Congress and the presidency, or all three, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and the Supreme Court, by the way. So I understand why people don't want that. And I understand why that would create an exigency to have Kamala Harris be president. And that could also be motivation, especially with what I saw as another takeaway from the town hall, which is JD Vance not understanding the issue of reproductive rights in this election. He does not get it. It is not just about abortion, good, bad. That is a single medical procedure. It is about us in our lifetime seeing the first class of American citizens to have a right taken away from them. And that happens to be the biggest part of the American population, women. And you can say, no, didn't take the right. They gave it to the states. Yeah, to give it to the states, you had to take it away from it being a federal standard. That is a taking. And whether you like my description or not, it is clearly how the American public sees it, especially women. And he didn't see that. Abortion, we got to make it easier to have different alternatives. Women have to know that they have choices. Well, first of all, Republicans are in no hurry to pay for contraception and to allow it to people, because it's an extension of the evangelical extreme Christian ethos and belief system. So I think he's got trouble with his own people on that one. But he's also missing the issue. It's a rights issue. It is a rights issue. And that came out of the town hall also. So what I saw was, to give you a quick summary on it, Nice Vance is a nod to the idea that they can screw this up, and that the grievance movement is very strong, that's powering Trump, but he can lose it by coming off as extreme. And that's why you got Nice Vance. That there is a path to victory here for Trump that is based on grievance and that enragement being misplayed by Democrats that are just keeping it to Trump is terrible, because people care more about the conditions than they do his character. People care more about themselves than they do about him. And Democrats are misreading that, but there is also an opportunity in that. Democrats can win this race because people want things done about what's going on. And what Trump really is a disruptor. What Trump really is a middle finger. That's why he can have concepts of a plan. And Harris has to have detailed plans. I know it's a higher bar. I know it's a different standard of scrutiny. I think it's unfair that Harris gets accused of word salad and people just shrug their shoulders about how Trump lies all the time. But that's how it is. Why is it that way? Because of a grievance movement. I think in part because she's a black female. And I think in part because Democrats are more scrutinizing of their own, although that's a qualified judgment, because they're being very heavy-handed in dismissing and censoring ideas that they don't like and that don't hew to their own outcome. I was also very surprised at how sticky the town hall was on social media. There were almost 2 million people watching live. And those are big numbers for NewsNation. I think the debate that we did and that town hall kind of really put NewsNation on the map for a lot of people. And I think that's a good thing. Regardless of whether you want to see me live or die, we need a really aggressively independent, seeking reasonable beyond left-right media outlet. And NewsNation really is that. So those are my basic takeaways.
Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from RadioActive Media. Business owners, CMOs, got to grow, right? How? How is the question. People plateau pretty easily on social media. I'm one of them. Online efforts. Sometimes they start right, but all of a sudden they go wrong. Why not tap into podcasts? Why not tap into radio? What do we know? In the U.S., audio reaches more than 270 million people every week. That's more than social media and digital combined. My friends at RadioActive Media, they know the recipe to launch, optimize, and scale performance by building compelling audio campaigns, and those campaigns can work. They got a personal approach, they know the medium in a way that few others can match. For advertisers who want to reach the right audience with the right hosts and programs, you got to speak with RadioActive Media. Learn how you can experience the power of audio marketing by utilizing the strength of text messaging, as well as audio, message integration. And as a result of combining, you generate a return on investment as high as 7 to 1. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a deal. Text my name, Chris, to 511 511. Heck, you can even buy spots on my show. All right, if you're a mid-sized company or a well-funded startup with a monthly budget as low as 5 figures, RadioActive Media can help. They believe in the power of radio so much, they even use it themselves. Right here, right now, right? That's what's happening here, is I'm promoting them for helping me. Text my first name, Chris, C-H-R-I-S, to 511 511. Chris to 511 511. Or you can do it on the web. Go to radioactivemedia.com. Text rates? Sure, it's worth it. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from GetMaineLobster.com. And I got to tell you, we're coming into the holidays. Now, of course, if you're an extension of the mishpucha, lobster is treif. But for the rest of us, it's good eating at holiday time. Get Maine Lobster, the #1 lobster delivery service in America, as recognized by Good Housekeeping and the woman who makes my house keeping good, my wife. And when you're talking lobster, let's be honest, Maine, baby. It's Maine. I'm a New Yorker through and through. I'm not messing with them when it comes to lobster, okay? When you go to GetMaineLobster.com, you can get it with a deal. Promo code Cuomo, 15% off all orders store-wide. 15% off. Why wait? Treat yourself. Let the people you love know that they are loved. Make memories. GetMaineLobster.com. Visit the site and use the promo code Cuomo and you get 15% off at checkout store-wide. GetMaineLobster.com. GetMaineLobster.com. That will bring you closer together.
Chris, this is Greg, the producer, jumping in. I wanted to run a quick couple questions by you. I watched the whole thing and I took some notes. I want to jump on what you just said a moment ago about abortion and Vance's policy stuff and holding Harris to a different standard when it comes to rolling out policies and explaining them in a format like this. And what he says over and over again is, in the abortion question you asked him, choose life, choose life, choose life. He sounded like he was a member of Wham, and he just kept going back to that same phrase over and over again and talking about how families, young families can't really afford, or an issue that we're having right now, a lot of younger people is they can't afford to have a family. And this is something that affects me directly for the first time in any election, because as you know, as some of your audience knows, I have a very nice little 5-month-old daughter. And that question on like, oh, we want to take care of people if they have a child. We want to make it easier to have a child. It goes back to the question he had about 5 minutes into this thing where he talked about his child care plan. And in the Republican policy document, you did a whole video laying out like the priorities months ago. Please check it out on the YouTube channel of you going over Trump's list of priorities for the GOP. It isn't one of them. The only thing he mentions, the word child in his thing only comes up about like not indoctrinating children on like trans issues and things like that. Childcare does not come up at all once. What Vance said in talking about childcare is he wants to have more options beyond like what the state provides right now, as in we want to make it easier for your grandparents to help out or for a church to help out. And this is just from my personal point of view, and I know I'm going long here, but like I live in New York, my family lives in Michigan. They would love to babysit the kid all the time. I get it. I also don't go to church. So this policy that he's setting up, that is also not a policy even laid out in the GOP thing. I don't even know how that would affect a guy like me, because from what he was explaining, they're not offering literally anything that would help somebody directly who has a need for childcare right now, who is paying out the ass for it. So I'm bringing this up to you because like he throws a lot of stuff out there, and yet there's almost nothing to latch on to.
Well, what do you do when you're against expanding government services, but you want to appease a need? You pay it lip service. It's hard to raise a kid. It's expensive. It's a crazy society. It's hard in a lot of ways that go beyond even the financial aspect of it. But he doesn't want to increase government spending, at least, theoretically. In a perverse way, in a weird way, MAGA is the only populist movement I've ever examined that caters to the interests of the elite. It is the only populist movement that doesn't want to do stuff for the population. Right? And then he said something that I thought was ambitious and interesting, which is, we should force companies to give more paid leave.
Right.
Now, I don't know how you force corporations to do anything, although I believe that that's a little idealistic, because in truth, they force government to do all kinds of things for them. So I don't know why there can't be a different quid pro quo. And I think that a lot of corporations fall down. I think the Gregs of the society should be able to stay home for a period with a newborn. Yes, I know I raised 3 kids, or I watched my wife do it. And yes, early on, as big as my pecs are, my kid wasn't attached to them. I get it. But the more parents, the better. The more hands, the better. And it's something a lot of other societies do, and we don't. We don't take care of the mothers and their ability. We don't take care of the fathers and their ability. So I was interested in what he had to say about it, but it doesn't make a lot of sense given from the disposition of what Trump's about, which is less regulation, which is leaving corporations alone, which is rewarding them for doing what they can for the top end of their management. And it is a double standard because they are just about being pissed off. And Harris is the incumbent, so she is to blame for what they're pissed off about. And she has the heavy lift of proving to people she can do something about it. Whereas Trump just has to let them know that he wants to destroy the same shit that they do. He's pissed about the same things that they are, even if they don't affect him the same way. And I believe there is more pressure on her to have to put out plans as a result of that. And you can say that's not fair, but that's the state of play. And she's very much in this race. So obviously there is an appetite for it. People do want it, and they are willing to entertain Kamala Harris as a president for 3 reasons, really. One is the needs are great in society. The needs are great, and people are upset and want government to do something about it. 2, Trump is seen as an asshole by a lot of people. And by the way, that's being kind of mild about it. It's not just that they see him as an asshole. It's that they think that he wants to do bad things. And the third reason is that there is a desire, just as there is a movement of grievance, there's a desire to be done with the movement of grievance. There is a counter energy in this society to MAGA. Well, you don't like my answer?
Who's your dog, by the way? We just saw your dog in frame.
Eliza.
Hello, Eliza.
It is nearing their time to eat. So she doesn't really want to come up here. She wants to be fed. So, and now that she did that because she's the leader, so now here's the big guy. Got the black guy, I got the yellow guy, and I got Eliza. And this is the oldest one, is Alabama. You'll see his tail. And once she lets them know it's okay to complain, they start circling. They're all about the food, just like their daddy.
Speaking of dogs eating, you did mention this to JD Vance at the end of the town hall. You got back to the comments he made about, immigrants allegedly and falsely eating animals. And he made a really interesting pivot, I thought, because he repeated that same line he said over and over again. It's like, I just keep hearing this from my constituents. Like, people keep telling me, which is a very Trump thing. It's like, people keep saying, it's like,
being a critical thinker, he's repeating it because he likes it. And he didn't investigate the claim because he liked the claim. Okay? Being a critical thinker is not, some people say it's raining outside. Other people say it isn't. So you say both. You go look out the window. And he didn't want to look out the window. He didn't want to vet the claim. And he then used grievance, which is one of the things they're pissed at is me, right? The media. So he blamed it on us. We're the ones who proved it wasn't true, which is not easy to do, by the way. It's not easy to disprove something.
Right.
So the non-existence of a fact, as we say. So he was just playing that grievance game. Well, why didn't you say it's him? It's not about me. It's a town hall. And I got to tell you, Trump people, they actually booed me in the room, by the way, which is rare at these things. But they can boo me all they want. The idea that Trump isn't known for being divisive is kakapupu. Okay, as I think they say in Farsi, kakapupu. So they can boo me. That's fine, and the Democrats can think that I'm pro-Trump or ignoring a Nazi by giving an audience to JD Vance. But one thing I thought he was absolutely right about, it's not his idea, but he is right to share it. You cannot simply censor what you oppose in America. You've got to allow opportunity for the best ideas to win. And by the way, you have emboldened the MAGA crowd by saying that they shouldn't be heard. You have hurt yourself by doing that. Let them be heard. Expose bad ideas and beat them with better ideas. Same point I had. Will you shut up? Same point I had about don't prosecute Trump to death. Beat him at the polls with better ideas. Don't look for ways to keep prosecuting him. Beat him. Prosecute the case against him in the court of public opinion and beat him.
If I can jump on that, I'd actually like to get your take on your role in facilitating this kind of stuff, because you've put out videos before about, and again, you can find this elsewhere on the YouTube channel or your podcast feed, about how you wish that debates didn't have moderators. Like, you just let two people go at it and, let the audience decide. And I watched Kamala Harris's town hall the other night with Anderson Cooper. It really is a town hall. It is the questions from the website formerly known as Twitter, plus the audience members in Michigan. And in my opinion, I saw you as you were the conduit of these people, and then you would redirect a question if you wanted some more clarity or to take a different angle after you answered it. What do you say to people who might have wanted more, I don't know, fact checking or pushback or whatever?
I would love it. I would love to do an interview with JD Vance with an audience there and reverse the dynamic. I love town halls. I was very enthusiastic about them when CNN reintroduced them into the political process wholesale. I thought that was a brilliant move by CNN. And even though it is a frustrating format for me, it's not a flex for me. I think they're really helpful to the audience, and that's the goal. But I would also like to have the reverse of that dynamic. which is we have an audience there. We do it live, and it's just me and you and mano a mo. And we then go to the audience every once in a while for their take on an exchange, a question, or an answer. I would love to do that also.
That would be fun.
So I would be fine to do that, but you will not find people wanting to do that the same way as they want to do town halls. One of the reasons we reintroduced the town halls at CNN is because candidates are much more interested in talking to people and hearing their questions than the media.
Yeah.
Now, I also think that, look, there are all levels of bias involved and preference, right? You did not see Anderson Cooper get attacked for having Kamala Harris on the stage the way I was for having JD Vance. You did not see Anderson Cooper criticized for what he didn't fact check about her the way I was criticized for not fact checking about him. Why? Because there was the preference pool there is pro Harris. And they were okay with what Anderson was doing. And then what happens? Reaction formation. So then on social media, the land of the magnified minority, all of a sudden, Harris is getting killed for having sucked in the town hall. And, that hasn't happened with Vance yet. I frankly, I think that he was too good in terms of answering the questions and sticking to, his knitting in terms of what their positions are and what his positions are to get a whole lot of criticism. Now, you can not like his answers. There are a lot of them that I could totally understand wanting to go the opposite way of, but he answered the questions.
He was, just off of that, there was one, I bolded this in my little note list. It was kind of slippery. Somebody asked him like a second time how he would lead the country if Trump were out of the picture or something. And he went on this thing about how we're led by these bureaucrats that have been around for 30 or 40 years. And went on this tear about how, NASA went to the moon back in the day, 40 years ago. We haven't been to the moon in 40 years. And it's like, what are you talking? We're going to the moon. There are plans. Like this Artemis program is literally in place right now to send people to the moon in like 2 years. Like it's one of these things where it's like, sounds good on paper, but it's not true. Like this, the imagination's gone. We're never going back to the moon. We are going back to the moon. These people they're simulating this out in the desert right now.
You are right, but there is a but. We have not been as ambitious with space missions as we were with the moon launch, the moon shot. That's why we have that expression, the moon shot. But there's a reason for that. The federal government, and certainly the Republicans, ran away from NASA and NASA funding. And they started to see it as, too far-fetched, too forward-thinking, too long-range thinking to finance. So I get the rhetorical point, that's politics. But he's also not encouraging anything ambitious. He didn't even, big ideas. What big idea do they have? Build a wall, the roundup, and on the list of regrets. I would have loved to have talked to him more about immigration in terms of the solutions. How are they going to round up 14 million people, 25 million people, whatever his number is, keeps going up. Most estimates I see are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. I think he said 25 at one point yesterday. Maybe I'm wrong. But how are you going to do it? Where are you going to put them? Like, I don't get how this becomes anything other than what we're seeing in China with the Uyghurs, which oddly, all the pro-Palestinian people don't seem to have any problem with. You got 1 million Uyghurs who are Muslim ethnic minorities in internment camps in China. Is that what we're going to do?
Those are like re-education camps with like video monitoring and all this stuff. It's really an ugly situation.
So, I think that's really a conversation to have. Again, sounds good. Let's get them all and kick them out. They didn't come in the right way. Okay, fine. That appeals to everybody's basic reflex about law and order. You're trespassing. You got to go. Maybe you can come back, but you got to go. I think that's a really simplistic view of the situation. I also think it's incredibly impractical. I also think it would be very, very deleterious to our economy and the social fabric of a lot of communities. And you would destroy a lot of families also. So he's pro-family, just not pro those families.
Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from Ground News. Now listen, I'm a news guy. Why am I pitching a different source? Because I don't play that game. That's why. If something can help you, I want you to know about it. And Ground News is very helpful. Why? Because Ground News helps you curate information that you can trust. It's a website and app that helps you make sense of the news by gathering related articles from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. It does the homework for you. Context about the source. Does it have a political bent? Is it reliable? Who owns them? Ground News gives you that information. What details do people emphasize and why? Ground News lets you compare how outlets from the left, right, and just who's known to be reasonable, how they're all covering and each is covering the same story. Go to groundnews.com/Chris to get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan, which will unlock access to all of their features. I think it's a genuinely cool, essential tool in today's world. They're doing important work, and I hope you'll check them out. Groundnews.com, GROUND is ground/Chris. And then you hook me up and I hook you up. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from Everyday Dose, okay? Next generation of coffee. Everyday Dose is coffee plus. Plus what? Functional mushrooms, nootropics, collagen protein. Why do I need that stuff? Focus, clarity, energy, sleep, immune protection, immune bolstering. Coffee plus. That's what Daily Dose is about. All of what you want from coffee, you don't lose anything in terms of, even if you're like, oh, but I really care about my coffee. Yeah, I get it. This is good coffee plus. Head over to everydaydose.com/Chris and you get 25% off 5 free gifts with your first order. Okay? Your first month, you get USB rechargeable frother. Cool, right? Gunmetal dose spoon. Cool, right? Breathwork app by Othership. See, they care. It's a wellness booklet that you're going to have with it and a sticker. Everybody wants the sticker. It's worth it in and of itself. Everybody likes a nice sticker. Every month, you get amazing free gifts with your order. Why? Because Daily Dose, DOSE, is trying to grow their business, and they're doing it the right way for the right reasons. Check it out. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from AG1. Listen, if you know me and you know the podcast, you know how I feel about AG1. But I got a limited time offer for you, all right? $67 value. As you know, AG1 is the real deal for me. Just one scoop, and for me, some warm water, but you can put it in whatever you want. And that's it. And that's my morning routine, all right? Literally. What can it take you? A minute? You get the vitamins, the minerals, the pre and probiotics, the adaptogens for you big brains, and more, all in a scientifically blended to make sure that it gets absorbed formula that is AG1, which I've been taking for years. AG1 is daily self-care for me, and it should be for you. I know that I'm doing something right when I start the day with AG1. So, start with AG1, notice a difference for yourself. It's a great first step. It's an investment in your health, and I think that matters. Try it today, and you will get their special offer of 10 free travel packs. Oh yeah, they upped it. And a bottle of Vitamin D3K2 with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/CCP. That is the $67 value I was telling you about. You get it for free if you go to drinkag1.com/CCP today. Check it out.
Before we wrap this up, one thing I want to talk about is the actual behind-the-scenes-ish stuff of how you actually got Mr. Trump to call in to this town hall, because that was kind of a surprise that he actually took part in it. Because if you listen to the top of this podcast, our YouTube audience, our podcast audience, you've been very clear. You're not going to vote for Mr. Trump, or at least you're not a giant fan of Mr. Trump, the way he conducts himself. I think the audience seems very split on this. Maybe they just don't listen to the full episodes, but you've been quite clear about this, at least in the videos we've been putting out. But is this part of you calling him after the assassination attempt to tell him, I'm sorry for what your family is going through? Have you repaired your relationship with him, or is he just more interested in getting on NewsNation? Because for a long time he said they're never going to come on. Then I saw he did an interview with NewsNation. Now doing Vance at the town hall, and he calls in. I'm just curious as to how your relationship and NewsNation's relationship with Trump and Vance has evolved over the past several months.
I don't have a relationship. I don't hate anyone. I don't believe in it. It's a concept.
I didn't say. Did I say you hated?
No. But I'm often people will say you're a Trump hater.
Yeah.
And even as hyperbole, it is a really ugly thing. And we are way too susceptible to it. So I don't hate Trump. And as I said earlier, I don't believe he is a Hitler wannabe. Okay. But that's also a really pathetically low bar for being a leader of the United States. I have not repaired the relationship. He weaponized me as an enemy of the state. It compromised my kids. It compromised my wife. It made us have to move. He caused me trouble that was unfair and unnecessary. And he knew it was happening. So that's it for me. And on top of it, by the way, in any fair analysis, the guy is beneath the standard of what we should have as leadership in the United States. Well, so is Harris. Well, that's what elections are for then. Okay, if that's how you feel, that's what elections are for. Vote for Trump. Okay, I never say don't vote for Trump. Okay, that's not my job to tell people who to vote for or not. I do believe it is now part of my job, unlike the LA Times and the Washington Post, both outlets I respect very greatly. I don't think it's the time to not endorse candidates anymore, because the suggestion in that is that people will therefore think you're fair. I don't think that's what the net effect of that is. I think that you're just taking what could be useful perspective out of the process, and people are going to still think you're unfair. So that would be my feeling about that. He called into the town hall last night because I had he called into the town hall because I had the idea, and I asked him to. Look, people can think I suck or I'm stupid or I'm great and I'm glorious, whatever it is. It's all wrong. But I do have pretty significant reach. I'm pretty much 2 phone calls away from anybody. I may not get the answer that I want, but I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of people, and I can reach out and get in contact. And I asked the campaign, and they liked the idea. That's how it happened.
I just thought it was so funny that he chose the things he chose to say in this time with you and with JD Vance and NewsNation is to say he called in and goes, "How brilliant is Donald J. Trump?" And then, "How brilliant is Kamala?" It's like, I feel like what he said was effectively just like the equivalent of a yard sign. You know what I mean? Like, how great am I? How bad is she? It's like, in effect, that's essentially his entire message distilled in some ways. But I thought that was so interesting that he takes this opportunity, and that is effectively all that he said.
I agree that that's interesting. I also think that that is a good instruction as to why the Democrats should be very careful about playing the same game, because I don't think you win that game. And it's not because Trump has a better case that Harris is a worse person than he is. I don't think that that is a good case for Trump at all. Okay. But I don't think that a campaign that is being primarily motivated by grievance, I think that is the Trump campaign. I think that is his movement. I don't think it's got the same matched energy on Harris's side and who she's trying to create as a coalition of the willing to make things better. I also think you got a really good instruction in Trump's demeanor. He said to JD Vance in the town hall, "How brilliant is Kamala?" And as he was getting ready to answer, he said, "Don't say it, don't say it. We're doing so well." Mm-hmm. That is a very interesting tone from Mr. Trump. Of let's not mess it up. That's not who he was a month ago. That's not who he was in 2016, right? He was death by 1,000 cuts. That's how he usually is. He is gratuitously negative. He is gratuitously divisive. And I thought that was interesting. I know it was a joke, but sometimes, in levity, you get truth.
The polls right now, CNN poll, 47-47. New York Times poll, 48-48. It is as big of a coin flip as it could possibly be. What's a quick take on the state of play and how you see this shaking out, if you can even make a prediction?
This is where a 2-party binary battle to the bottom gets you. Over time, these parties have surrendered to which is worse. And that is fundamentally fear-based, toxic division. And that's why we're split. Now, do I believe the polls? No, I don't. Why? Because I think it's too hard to sample people now to get them, to really get a feel. I do believe it is Trump's race to lose because I believe the dominant ethos is grievance. And the Democrats are trying to match that by making a grievance about him as a person. And I don't think people care as much about him as they do about themselves and their lives. And I don't mean that as a criticism of us. I mean, like, that's just human nature. I care more about me than I do about the person who's running for office, right? It's about what they can do for me, not what I can do for them with my vote. So I think that it is his election to lose. And from now until election day, all that really matters is not what is said, but is what is done. Who's got the better ground operation that gets people to the polls and gets them to request and fill out and send in absentee ballots and allows them to exercise their franchise where they can by mail and by early voting? Who does that better likely wins this election.
If you think it isn't totally going to be tied up like that, do you think we're on track for like another polling error like we were a few years back? Like the pollsters are missing something completely. Like, obviously it's Trump, obviously it's Harris. Do you think we're just like, because nobody wants to answer the phone, nobody wants to respond to these text messages, everybody's shutting the door? Like, do you think we're just on track to be flying completely blind here?
I don't know. I think that, look, I would love for that to be true, because I would love for it to be completely definitive and over on Tuesday, but it won't be. We already know that certain states aren't going to give their results that night. Mm-hmm. So time is your enemy in these things. It's not like haste makes waste. You know what I mean? You know that expression? You know, it's not like, oh yeah, let's give them time so they can count it all. The time fuels the misgivings. I mean, Look at all the lawsuits that the Republicans have filed already. There's like 140 lawsuits or something. They keep getting thrown out also, by the way. But, it just lets you see what is to come. Look, I don't think it's a stretch that it's a divided society. It's just such an interesting campaign to cover because, again, not in 20 years have I seen one that I can totally understand going either way. I would have been shocked if Trump had beaten Biden. I would have been shocked. Mm-hmm. We were so banged up by the pandemic. People were so pissed at him. He was so incompetent. We were so exhausted by his noise, right? I was not surprised and was one of the people who saw it early on that something was happening in this country that Hillary Clinton was seen as the enemy of. Barack Obama was clearly going to clean the clock of both people he was running against, because there was a movement in the country to make history, to do something different, to show some kind of manifestation of evolving progress. Now, that also, I believe, brought us Trump as a function of reaction formation, and white fright as a new boogeyman that we have to deal with in society. But I will understand either outcome here. Do I think they're equal propositions for the country? No, there's absolutely a choice here. Do I think that it matters that much? I personally don't. And I'm fine with you disagreeing with me. Just don't hate me because of it. Don't say I should lose my job or I shouldn't be able to say that. Just have better ideas. And maybe you'll change my mind, because unlike the rest of you, and unlike what we're seeing in our reactions on social media, I don't see change as weakness when it comes to ideas. My values, my principles are what they are, but I'm also incredibly flawed. I fuck up all the time. I make mistakes. I make intentional mistakes. I'm human, right? I do all of these things. So I would absolutely change my belief and my inclinations on things based on new information and different perspective. You should be the same way. And a big takeaway from the town hall was that, one, NewsNation's on the map, and we are in a very bad place with being open to what we oppose.
Well, thank you for. I know this is a long day for you. You had to get you finished all the stuff yesterday. You flew in from Detroit. You drove in from the airport. It's all these travel. I know what a travel day like that is, and it can be easy for you. So thank you for on behalf of the audience for sharing all this stuff with us. At the back end of a travel day before you get gear up to shoot your episode tonight.
It was good to be back in Detroit. Parts of it have come a very long way.
Did you see the David Whitney building?
Yeah.
Cool.
And look, Greektown and some of the downtown areas are very energetic.
Greektown Casino.
I probably screwed up, and I should have paid more attention to having you come, Greg. So, because that's Greg's home state.
Yes, I could have shown you the People Mover.
Well, no, I was so rushed and busy. It wouldn't have been that. It would have been that you could have created content from there that would have made sense because it's your place. I screwed up that opportunity.
I actually was texting my mom to see if she wanted to go to your town hall, but she it was too late for her to drive to Detroit. She didn't want to deal with the traffic. Her eyes are bad, so
good to be there. They have a ways to go. Democrats, and Greg knows this, but for you at home, Detroit is a top 30 population city. It's about the size of Boston, right? It's like 600 something thousand people. In the 50s, it was a top 5 city in the country. So, it's had a fall, the Motor City, and it is rebounding in ways that go beyond Shinola watches. And it's interesting to see Democrats win 93, 95, 98% of the vote in Detroit. Why? It is largely socioeconomic minority and people who need support as working class and need government services. And that has been the Democrat domain. It will be interesting to see what percentage of the vote they get this time. I don't know if Biden got 93, 95%, but a lot of people there were telling me that their pocketbook was better under Trump. And that was the end of their analysis, that there is grievance. And you say, yeah, but it was the pandemic. And he started at the pandemic, and he was what helped tank the economy, and we're in recovery mode, and we're doing better than a lot of other countries. Are you factoring any of that in? They're like, nope. What I'm factoring in is how much it takes me to fill the tank. This is how much the hamburger is. This is how much the rent is. And it's all too much. And that's tough for Harris. That's tough. Look, the biggest takeaway is that the town hall is part of the cure. Conversation is the cure. Disagreement is fine. How we disagree matters. More opportunities to have people who want to lead us answer questions so that you can weigh those answers. And not histrionics, not a food fight, not gotchas and hot takes, but thoughtful conversation is the cure to the division. And the town hall revealed a lot about Vance's demeanor, his expectations, what he's selling, and what the response to it is going to be, and what the response to even allowing the conversation is going to be. It was a real window, real Rorschach test, really, for the American electorate right now. So I appreciate you checking it out. I appreciate you processing the experience with me here on the Chris Cuomo Project. If you have more questions for me about it, hit me up on the Connect app and I can answer them for you. And we can do videos like this if you want. And if you love this, but man, it goes a lot quicker without the ads. Subscribe to the Substack. You get it ad-free. It's only $5 a month. And we use the money to help people get treated for long COVID. And on the Substack, you get exclusive information about me and my life and what I've failed at that hopefully you can use to make your life better than mine, and my long COVID treatment with my doctor and all her insights about what works for long COVID and for longevity, what you can do yourself for yourself. It's all in there for $5. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. And we're going to make it, but we only make it if we stay together. Let's get after it.